Welcome to Midnight Brew and Mysteries, the podcast where the coffee is strong and the stories even stronger. Each episode, we dive into the unexplained, from chilling ghost encounters to unsolved mysteries that defy logic. So grab your favorite late night drink, settle in, and prepare to question everything. Hello and welcome to Midnight Brew and Mysteries. My name is Susie and I am your host for this podcast. Some of you may know me as Susie Style on YouTube, and you're not wrong. This is actually my second passion and something that I really was drawn to doing. Something just always kind of told me to start a podcast. And I wanted to for a long time. I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do a podcast about. And I finally decided on doing a kind of unexplained mystery slash paranormal podcast. And I decided to name it Midnight Brew and Mysteries because I love coffee. If you guys know me, you know that I love coffee. And I also really love mysteries and ghost encounters, paranormal encounters, things that are a little bit chilly and give me goosebumps. I love all of those things. So I decided to start this podcast, and in each episode, I'm going to be not only going over different kinds of historical, paranormal places, anything dealing with the unexplained. And if that is also your jam, I hope that you will join me for the episodes in this podcast. Each episode will be around 30 minutes long. I decided that that would probably be the best length because people can listen to it on their way into work or maybe even late at night. Honestly, I think listening to this podcast late at night or before you go to bed sounds like a really great idea for not getting sleep because I feel like sometimes some of the episodes might be a little scary, a little creepy, and a little bit chilling, makes you kind of think. And that's exactly kind of what I was going for with this podcast. A lot of you guys, myself included, because I'm 40, so I wasn't really around when, there was the radio shows on where they would kind of say, horror stories or scary stories. But there did used to be different kinds of radio shows and TV shows that would come on, daily or once a week. And they would be someone telling, scary stories, something like that. Something that kind of reminds me of a time way back when. And this was the perfect opportunity. So, just a little bit more about myself. Full time during the day, my day job, I am a medical assistant and I work in a doctor's office, which can also sometimes be a horror movie in itself. If you work in healthcare, if you know, you know. But I also, in my spare time, I do like to be creative. I like to do a lot of crafts. I do have my YouTube channel, which I film a lot of lifestyle and beauty content, though I've kind of been filming less on there just because I've been focusing on starting up this podcast. And also, I feel like YouTube just has changed a lot, and I was kind of ready for something a little bit new. Also, another not so known fact is that I live right behind a cemetery. Yeah, so perfect setting for telling stories like this, for researching about ghosts or talking about the paranormal. I literally can see the graveyard right out my window. Like, it's not right behind my house, but it is probably within very close walking distance of my house. And funny little fact I found out when buying my house was that a lot of people actually shy away from houses by graveyards. Houses that have a view of a graveyard or a cemetery actually take longer to sell than houses that don't. Isn't that interesting? I guess mainly because people are a little bit creeped out and a little bit scared by it, but it's honestly not quite as scary as you might think. It's definitely not something that like creeps me out on a daily basis. But I will say that I've had some experiences around here that I can tell are a little bit weird. And sometimes I do think they are related to the paranormal. Also, since I've lived in this house, most pictures that I take seem to have orbs in them. That used to happen to me sometimes in my photos because I feel like I have kind of always been around spirits my whole life, and including my family also, which I'll go into that in just a minute. But ever since I've lived here in this house, orbs have definitely been something that have been in a majority of my photos. They're usually green or blue, sometimes yellow. And I like to just think that maybe it's the spirits out there in the cemetery, just maybe walking around my neighborhood. Who knows? I definitely believe that spirits and ghosts walk among us, and I definitely believe in the unexplained. So it's always been a little bit interesting ever since I moved in here with experiencing kind of an increase in, I guess, spiritual things happening. So, I told you guys that I have a little bit of a history with the spirit world. And what I mean by that is that I've just always kind of had spirits around me. I'll tell you guys a few instances where I kind of experienced a spiritual encounter. And also, my mom and my grandma and some of my other relatives, they've all kind of experienced ghosts and spirits in their own way. So it's definitely not just me. I think in my family, maybe we are just kind of more open and perceptive to those things, and we do believe in it. So I guess maybe spirits have always kind of been a little bit drawn to me, per se. One experience that I can tell you guys about is that when my mom was younger, she actually was walking down a roadway, not a roadway like with cars, but like a country road. And a man and his son had actually passed away in a river that was kind of running alongside that road. And she actually saw the ghosts of both the man and his son. They died separately on different occasions, but they literally both passed away in that same spot. Basically, I believe they drowned when they fell into the river because they were under the influence. And my mom happened to see both of their ghosts, which is a little bit scary. And she said she wasn't really scared by it. She just kind of went home and thought it was a little bit weird. And that's kind of how I take it too. Whenever things happen to me, I just kind of see it as, well, I guess the spirit world is just communicating with me, and there's really no need to be scared. Most ghosts are definitely like not malicious. They're not violent. They're not going to hurt you. They're just kind of stuck in a limbo, which, if I'm actually being honest, sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a limbo. In just real life, but I guess you could say we've all just kind of had our own experiences. So, I want to tell you guys about a few of the experiences that I have had. And by the way, I do have notes in front of me. For each of my podcasts, I want to kind of make sure that I have notes in front of me so that I don't forget about anything. I'm trying to get better with kind of transitioning through all of my notes and having it all kind of flow together. I'm so used to YouTube, and it's such a different world than podcasting. But I'm going to do my very best for you guys and make sure that I make this flow and be as cohesive as possible. So, one of the encounters that I've had with a ghost or a spirit is when I was younger and when I was probably a teenager. I want to say I was probably in like middle school, probably sixth or seventh grade. Friday the 13th, I specifically remember the date because how weird that on Friday the 13th. We were living in Kentucky at the time, and I was in my room It was the middle of the night, probably like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., maybe 4 a.m. Can't remember if it was a weekday or a weekend, but I awoke to a very loud sound of dishes breaking. And I very vividly remember the sound of the dishes breaking. It wasn't, your typical, like somebody drops one dish. It was literal, like dishes falling, cracking, breaking, loud noise. And it was so odd because my parents were asleep. I mean, I could hear them in the next room over that they were asleep, so I knew that it wasn't them. But part of me thought, is my mom like in the kitchen? Is she mad about something? Is she breaking dishes? That's kind of what started going through my mind and I started thinking about. But as I got up, and by the way, I was very, very scared, terrified even, but I had to know what it was. I snuck to the kitchen through the dark, not turning on no lights, creeping down the hallway, creeping all the way down to the kitchen, which was on the other end of the house from where my room was. And I was just terrified, you guys. But the closer that I got to the kitchen, the more I didn't hear the sound anymore. And as I actually got to the kitchen, I didn't hear anything. And I turned on the light, and there was nothing. Everything was as it should be, cabinets closed, no dishes anywhere, no dishes on the floor, no one in there, just complete quiet, silence. And I was thinking to myself, what just happened? Because I know I heard it. I know I heard the sound of the dishes breaking, and it was so loud. I could literally remember it. To this day, I even remember it. And there was nothing. So what was it? I don't know, guys. Never happened again, but it was definitely very terrifying. And I never did find out what it was. By the way, in the morning, I asked my mom, were you in the kitchen last night? Were you breaking dishes? And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. So she had no clue what I was talking about, but I know that I heard it. And it was very scary. It was very scary, and it was very, very real. So I don't know what kind of spirit it was, but it was a very angry spirit, and it never did happen again. So that was an odd encounter. So also when I was a teenager, I had a cousin. He was my favorite cousin. I mean, no one should have a favorite cousin, but I can definitely say he was mine. And he actually passed away. He was killed in a car accident when he was 19, and it was horrible. It was devastating for our family because he was very outgoing, such a great guy, and just very sweet, funny, had just the best personality. And when he passed away, I was traumatized. He was in a car accident, and he was killed on impact, and other people in the car were also killed in the accident. So it was a very sad, very, very tragic accident, really horrible. It made the news because he lived in Chicago, and I guess just because how horribly violent the car accident was. It was on the local news, and it was very sad. And after my cousin passed away, I feel like I saw his spirit a couple of times. One time I was in my bed sleeping at night, same house where I heard the crazy dishes breaking ghost, same house as where I was living when my cousin passed away. And I could swear that one night in the middle of the night I woke up and I can swear that I saw him standing in my window. And it was dark, but from the street light I could just see the outline of his face and his body, and he looked just like himself, and he was just standing in my window looking at me with this not like horrible look to him or anything. He just was looking at me like he just wanted to see me and looking a little bit confused, like, why am I a ghost? And I just remember seeing him in my window, and I was kind of scared, but at the same time, I knew that it was him, and I wasn't that scared. Like, I was scared because I knew he was not alive and that he was in my window, but at the same time, I just felt comfort knowing that he came to me, and maybe he just wanted to see me one last time, and I never saw him again after that. So a little creepy, some people might say, but it was definitely also comforting. Also, after the same cousin passed away, and we were very close, so like I said, it was very just tragic and very traumatizing when he passed. Whenever I went to Chicago with my mom for his service, the wake, his funeral was actually in Poland, so I didn't get to go to his funeral, but I did get to be at his service. And whenever I was there at my aunt's house, his room was straight back down the hall in the house. And we all went in there, we cleaned his things out. I took some of his hats and things home with me to remember him by. We had to sort through some of his clothes, and it was just very, very sad. But my relatives wanted to kind of have someone come. It was someone who communicated with spirits, a little bit psychic, and they wanted to basically communicate with him. So they had this lady come. I remember her being a little bit odd, but I guess most people that communicate with spirits tend to be not super normal, which, I mean, is normal, of course. And I remember we were all sitting there in kind of a prayer circle. She was kind of talking to him and trying to kind of find out more information from him, if he was doing okay, had he passed on, making sure he was doing well, had he seen any of our other relatives that had passed away, and basically she was communicating with him. And that evening, I remember I was walking to the restroom, which was also in the same hall, and I was sleeping in the room that was next to his room, my other cousin's room. I can't remember. I think maybe she was, I don't know. I don't know where she was sleeping. I don't know if she wasn't home or maybe she had already moved out by then. I can't remember now, but I just remember going to the restroom and I looked over at his room and it was dark in there, because of course he wasn't in there. And I remember seeing the door just close itself, just very slowly, just kind of closed, almost as if he was just like going to bed, or he had just come back from being out all night with his friends and he was coming home and he just went in his room and closed his door. And it was a little scary. I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little bit terrified because I was like, is he home? Is he in the room in there? And I didn't even look in there. I honestly just went to the restroom and I went back in my room and I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't because I just kept thinking about the door closing itself. And finally, I told my mom about it the next morning, and I also told my aunt, and I don't know if they believed me or not. I think my mom did, but I don't think my aunt really believed me. She was in such a shock after his passing that I'm not sure that she was really there, like all there, you know what I mean? But I know I saw him, and it actually gave me a lot of comfort. I never really experienced that again in that house. It was just that one time, one or two times, that I saw his spirit. Another thing that has kind of happened to me is sometimes I'll be around certain people and I'll feel like this cold chill feeling. That hasn't happened to me many times, but it's happened a couple times just when I'm around like certain people. And I don't know why that really is. I don't know if I'm just very perceptive to people's energies. I think some people carry a certain energy, and I don't know why they have like a cold feeling to me, but I literally remember that there's a patient I can think of, and when she was in the office, every time she comes, I have this like cold feeling when she's near. So that is really interesting. I think it's just like a perception. Another experience I can think of is when we first moved in our house here. As I told you guys, there's the graveyard cemetery right outside. And when we first moved in, I heard voices for a while. I heard voices for a couple of weeks, up to like almost a month. I even told people I worked with, and they had all said that they've had experiences where something like this happened to them before. And I don't think the ghosts were, or the voices of the ghosts were like, they weren't talking about anything that I could really recall. I just remember hearing like conversation outside, especially in the evening. I could hear it. I heard it for probably up to like a month, and now I guess I just don't really hear it anymore. I kind of sleep more through the night. When we first moved in, I wasn't really sleeping all that well. We just had so much going on, and I feel like I got woken up in the evening quite a lot. But now I feel like I'm so comfortable here. I'm comfortable. I don't really hear much of any kind of voices anymore. And I mean, I guess they might still be there, but I thought for the longest time that maybe it was my neighbors being outside in their yard, like in the early morning hours or the late hours, 2, 3 in the morning. But as I lived here for probably about a week, I kind of found out my neighbors don't really hang out in their yard in the middle of the night. They just don't do that. And I still was hearing the voices. So I'm just going to say, I think I was probably hearing the ghost. So, as a Scorpio, another little thing that some of you guys may not know about me, I'm very intuitive, and I can definitely tell when something seems off about people. I'm just very perceptive to, I guess, the spirit world, to things that are unexplained, to the paranormal. Not only that, but I have a gut instinct, and it's usually always right. There's been times when it's been wrong, but I will say that a majority of the time, if my gut is telling me something is off, it usually is off. So I definitely trust myself as far as when I tell you I have experienced these things. I know I'm not just making that up. I know for a fact that I was there and I experienced it. So anytime I tell you guys on here, if I had an experience with something, it's because I truly believe in it and I know that it happened to me. And I think sometimes I just have, like I said, that intuition about things. Maybe I'm just a little bit more perceptive to everything. So, for this podcast, some of the future endeavors that I would like to cover is I'm going to be researching some different historical locations, sharing with you guys stories of ghosts and spirits, sharing with you things that are definitely unexplained. Some of those places include haunted hotels, haunted boats, and even talking about Ouija boards and was there a real life Stranger Things? That is definitely something I'm going to be sharing with you guys and researching more about it so that I'm not only just going off of what I know, I'm sharing with you guys actual facts and actual stories about ghosts and spirits and things that are just kind of strange. Also, we'll be talking about a couple places that I grew up actually seeing when I lived in Louisville, Kentucky. So that's another thing I'm going to be sharing with you guys. And of course, I would love to hear you guys' comments and requests. So if there is something you would like to hear more about, please feel free to send me a message. I will leave some contact information on my podcast page so that you guys can contact me about any kind of things you might be wanting to hear more about. Those are some of the things that you can look forward to on this podcast. And definitely, I hope that you guys will make yourself a cup of coffee or whatever kind of drink that you like to drink. You can have tea. Coffee ain't everybody's jam, but hope that you will kind of join me. Right now, I haven't decided on a particular day specifically that I'm going to be posting, but I think I'm going to be starting out with posting at least once a week right now, maybe twice a week, even to start. I think I can manage to do once or twice a week. And as you know, more and more people are listening, I kind of see how the podcast is doing. I will start to incorporate more and more episodes. And if all works out really well, you never know, there may even be new episodes every other day. I would love to be able to get to that point. But I just kind of want to feel it out. I want to see, what you guys are thinking and, how you're liking everything. So just a little snippet for our next episode. I'm going to be sharing with you guys about a urban legend monster that I actually visited the location when I was growing up. And it was a very creepy place, a place where I actually didn't know 8 different fatalities have resulted from this urban legend / myth. And just really, really scary, kind of creepy place. If you guys are ever in Louisville, Kentucky, I hope that you'll go and check it out. But that is what you can look forward to the next episode of this podcast. So I just want to say a quick thank you so much, guys, for tuning in for this first episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that I have caught your interest for you to be able to come back for another episode. I've actually already wrote out the second episode. I'm very excited about it, by the way, because it's one of my favorite urban legend and myths. Just absolutely love it, and I think you guys will really enjoy it too. If you will, please subscribe to this podcast, follow it on Spotify so that you guys can be able to be notified of my new episodes coming out, and also so that you can tune in. Definitely, you don't have to, but I highly recommend it so that you can be notified. And pretty soon, I just want to say I will be actually filming video, so you guys will be able to see me in the background while I'm talking with you guys. I just want to kind of see how the first few episodes go, because like I said, this is my first time doing a podcast. But there will be video in the upcoming episodes so that you guys will be able to see pictures of what I'm talking about. I think that would be really, really fun. I hope I didn't scare you guys too bad on this first episode, but don't worry. If you weren't really all that scared, there's still plenty of time. I have plenty of things to tell you about that go bump in the night, that will kind of rattle your brains, and maybe you'll be having a little bit of trouble sleeping after you listen to the next few podcasts. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye, guys.